Sup Nation, Maverick here with episode 3 of our Battlefield 3 guide. Last episode I covered the specializations, and a while ago I made a guide to damaging tanks. If you missed those, do not worry, I'll put annotations to those at the end of this video. In this episode I'm going to be talking about all of the pistols. Now the pistols here in Battlefield 3 are very balanced. There isn't one that beats the rest, and the one you should choose has to do with your primary weapon in the situations you'll most likely be in. Since I'm going to be reviewing and comparing gun stats this episode and in future videos, I found these charts that will help provide visual aid. These charts that I'm using are from Synthic.com. It's a great website, and they'll even show you the difference in stats while you're using different attachments. This website is where I'll be getting a lot of my information, especially if I can't test things myself. And of course there will be a link to Synthic.com in the credits section of the description. So looking at this chart right away, you may be confused with some of the numbers, but I'll walk you guys through it. First of all, right here under your gun there will be 4 sets of numbers. The first set is the rate of fire. In this case the M16 will shoot at 800 rounds per minute, which is about average for assault rifles. The second set of numbers is the bullet velocity, which is how fast your bullets will travel across the map. This is actually one of the most important stats you'll need to know, but it's commonly overlooked because they don't tell you in the game. The third set of numbers is your max range. This is how far your bullets will travel until they completely disappear. Unless we're talking about shotguns, max range isn't something that you should worry about. And as for this M16, 975 meters is an entire medium-sized map. The last set of numbers is the percentage of suppression that each bullet will cause. In this case, each bullet will cause your enemy's screen to become 7% more suppressed. Over to the right, you'll find the damage over range chart. I'll assume that everybody here is aware that bullets do less damage over range, so I won't go into too much detail and bore you guys about that. Just to the right of that, we have your magazine size and reload times, and again, to the right of that, we have recoil values. Up top is your standard up, left, and right recoil. The M16 kicks .25 up, .1 to the left, and .3 to the right, so your recoil is going to be up and to the right. On the bottom left is what Synthic.com describes as recoil decrease. They didn't go into any further detail about what that means, but I would assume that it's your center speed. Center speed is how fast your gun settles back to normal after you finish shooting. So that's what I think they meant by recoil decrease, but I can't be sure. To the right of that is your first shot multiplier. Here in Battlefield 3, your first shot will kick more than the following shots. In this case, it will kick 2.5 times more. So even in long range fights, I would suggest using fully automatic bursts of 5 or 6 shots with the M16 instead of semi-automatic. To the right of that is your hip spread, which I probably won't be going into much detail about for most weapons. Before we start, there is one more thing that I should mention, and that's multipliers. Every gun here in Battlefield 3, with the exception of shotguns, will do twice as much damage to the head. In this case, a headshot with the M16 would cause up to 50 damage, depending on your range. Body and arm shots won't give you an additional multiplier, and leg shots will only cause 0.9 times the damage, or 10% less. That's why sometimes you'll lose a gunfight and your killer will walk away with about 2 health. So let's finally jump into the guns, and just remember that this is more of a pistol review than a guide. However, if you still do want the stats, they are of course right up there. First up is the M9. The M9 is the jack of all trades of its class. Just like the M16, the M9 is average or above average in every situation. It's not the best pistol up close, but you can shoot fast and has a large enough magazine to spray from the hip. It's a little bit above average at long range since the bullet velocity is higher than the other pistols, meaning you won't have to lead your target very much or worry about bullet drop until longer ranges. And the recoil will only kick up. As you could probably guess, the M9 is deadly at medium ranges where you only need 4 to 5 shots to kill. So whether you pull it out because your magazine is empty, or you treat it as a second primary with a recon class, you probably won't be disappointed with the M9. Next up is the G17, and I'm sorry to be biased here, but I actually hate this gun. The G17 just doesn't know what it wants to be. It holds 18 rounds and comes with a laser, so it's a hip-fire weapon, right? Well, for some reason it just won't shoot very fast. I have no problem with the M9 and they both say 400 RPM, but the G17 just feels so awkward. I don't know what it is, but even when I first unlocked it, I didn't like it. I guess it's because I like guns that have a direct playstyle to them. Like the F2000, it's just made for close to medium range. And the AK-74M is made for the longer ranges. I know that I said I like the M9 because it's versatile like the M16, but that's because it's average or above average at any range, where the G17 feels below average no matter what situation I'm in. I would actually really like some comments about the G17. What do you guys think about it? Am I being too harsh on it, or is it really that bad? With every other pistol, I can honestly think of a loadout that would work well with it, but for the G17, I just can't think of a reason why you would want it. Anyway guys, those are just my thoughts on the G17. I have no idea if I'm going to get hate for saying that, or if everyone else is going to agree. I don't see many people using it online, but I know I'll get a few comments from people who do. So maybe you could suggest a loadout where the G17 would honestly be the best choice, and then maybe I'll try it out. Next up is the MP443. The MP443 is so similar to the M9 that all I really have to do for this review is list a few differences it has. When you compare the stats of both the MP443 and the M9 side to side, the MP443's only difference is a slightly lower bullet velocity and 2 more rounds in the magazine. Having a slower bullet velocity may make it sound like more of a close range weapon, but the iron sights are a lot clearer than the M9's, and I would sooner pick this over the M9 for any long range gunfight. Plus the MP443 is a bit louder than the M9, so you shouldn't be lurking around enemies. So when should you pick this over the M9? Well, the M9 is great for close to long ranges, but the MP443 is great for medium to long range. So stick with the MP443 if you're using a shotgun, PDW, or you're just on a huge map, because it will help you in long range engagements. Next up is the G18. The G18 is a fully automatic spray cannon. Shooting at 900 rounds per minute, holding up to 20 rounds, and only doing 20 damage until 8 meters, close range is your best friend. Now some people look at pistols a little bit differently than others. Some people pick the pistol they would want in case they run out of ammo, like the M9 or the M1911, which is fine if you have a sniper for a primary, but I like to choose the pistol that will help keep me alive the longest, and in this case, whipping out a fully automatic G18 and firing from the hip is exactly what I'm talking about. If you end up using one of the heavier machine guns, reloading can lead to your death, unless of course you can take out your G18. Next pistol is the 44 Magnum. The 44 Magnum is a fun gun to use, and even though when I think of a revolver I think about range, I usually only spray people from the hip while we're in the same room. With that being said, the 44 Magnum is a close range powerhouse capable of getting a one-hit kill with a headshot. This isn't exactly the type of gun that I would want to take out instead of reloading my primary mid-gunfight like I would with the G18. When I choose the Magnum, it's because I'm using something slow like the AK-74M, and I take out the Magnum when I enter a small room or a building, because it's basically like a shotgun, and it will be a lot better up close than that AK. It does have the highest bullet velocity, and you can unlock the scoped 44 Magnum if you want to use it at range. In close range gunfights, I would suggest leaving it unscoped. That way there will be less visual recoil while aiming down the sight, and plus you can see a little bit more of the screen like that anyway. Next up is the M93 Raffica. The 93R is the only 3-round burst pistol. It's best for short to medium ranges. It's not terrible at long range, but the recoil is pretty bad and the iron sights aren't very good. Just like the rest of the gameplay, this is just me using the 93R as a primary, and surprisingly it's not as good as I remembered. I used to use the 93R a lot about a month or two ago, and I really liked it. But that's because I sprayed it while I was out of ammo instead of using it as a primary. There's also a debate about which is better, the 93R or the G18, because they're both very similar. I honestly feel more comfortable with the G18 in hand than a Raffica. The G18 knows what its role is a bit more than the 93R. It's for spraying up to 15 meters, while I'd say the Raffica can spray or aim down sight for about 20 meters. Also, I don't like how huge the gun model is. I mean look, this thing takes up about a third of the screen. Despite my small rant there, I really don't know what to think about the Raffica. It's just sort of there. Next up is the MP412. The MP412 is very similar to the .44 Magnum. The only major difference is that it can shoot a little faster and the bullets will only do 50 damage instead of 60. That is still a 2-hit kill or a 1-hit kill with a headshot, but over less range. It's the debate between slow and powerful or quick and weak. Now the MP412, as I already stated, is in no way weak, but it will limit you to close range hip firing, especially since the iron sights are complete crap. Honestly, the iron sights barely ever hit, even if the enemy is standing still. But the speed does give it the hipfire advantage over the Magnum. Last and definitely not least is the M1911. The M1911 is going to do 34 damage per shot, while the other semi-automatic pistols will only do 25. This means the M1911 is a 3-shot kill up to 12 meters, then it will be a 4-shot kill up to 30 meters. Some big downsides, however, is that the M1911 has a pretty slow fire rate and the slowest bullet velocity. One thing that I like about the M1911 is the hip spread is very tight, so in close range gunfights you can just hip fire and most of the shots, if not all, should connect. I think I like the M1911 because it's not far off from the M9, but in close range it almost feels like you have a Magnum because of the 3-shot kill. And despite the bullet velocity, it handles itself very well at medium ranges. The only real downside with this is that it can only hold 9 rounds in the magazine. Ever since I started working on this episode about a week ago, I started to really enjoy the M9. In fact, I think I'll be using it about 90% of the time. Since you're required to have a pistol, you may need to switch to it mid-gunfight or treat it as a primary. As I explained in the beginning of this review, the M9 proves to be above average in every situation. So if I had to crown one of the pistols king, it would have to be the M9 for the same reason that the M16 is the best assault rifle. It has reliability. Anyway guys, that is my pistol review. I hope you agreed with most of my views. If not, let's have some debates in the comments. But just be careful because I'm quite the master debater. If you liked this video and want more, then be sure to support this series with some positive feedback. Whether you contribute to the conversation below, or you just hit that like button, I want to thank you all for watching. This has been Maverick from the Achievement Nation, signing off.